To everyone who hates when I win, the winged victory came to the Louvre in pieces, and people still line up to see her. And I can only hope that despite my flaws, and despite my cracks and my breaks, and there are many of them, that at every premiere and everything I do, people will wait in line.
There's something wrong with her. She's disturbed, she's unhappy, and she thinks it's about feminism and the patriarchy and about abortion. But the reality is she's just not stable. Like the majority of people in Hollywood, they're just not stable human beings.
But you know, I've been as a young person in this industry who has no filter and no idea.
Inside Disney's Snow White fiasco, threats, beefed up security, and a social media guru to shut her up.
Wishing people would stop sending me death threats.
Rachel Zegler is extraordinarily woke, but she's woke in a way that's quite deranged. I would highly advise that you boycott this film, no matter how much your children love Snow White.
What happens when a rising star lands the role of a lifetime and suddenly finds herself at the center of a media storm?
Hard. And it's lonely. It's very lonely. When I tell you that it's hard, I just mean to be inside my brain. And I'm there 24/7. I can't get out of it.
Rachel Zegler was supposed to be Disney's next princess, the modern face of Snow White.
I know that you've told me before that your version of Snow White is different, and it's more of a 2022 version of Snow White. What did you mean by that?
I mean, you know, the original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her.
Yeah.
Weird.
But instead of a fairy tale, her story turned into a whirlwind of internet backlash.
The original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so.
They're remaking the movie. They just got rid of the dwarfs. Okay,
but what do they call them?
Why would they get rid of the dwarves, though?
Magical creatures.
Brown, a spicy Latina with skin as white as snow.
Political firestorms.
I got another example of it. Now, this person is not a politician and she's not a newscaster. Her name is Rachel Zegler. Zegler? I don't know. Zegler. She's also known as the star of Snow White. Years of hatred leaning us towards a world I do not want to live in. Leaning us towards a world that will be hard to raise my daughter in. P.S.
Behind the scenes, chaos and a $115 million box office disaster. From viral interviews and controversial tweets to on-set drama and a studio scrambling to do damage control, how did it all go so wrong? And more importantly, was she unfairly blamed? Today, we're going into the real story behind the headlines, where Hollywood dreams, canceled culture, and clashing ideals collided in one of the most talked about controversies in recent memory. Stick around, because this modern fairy tale is anything but happily ever after.
She's not going to be saved by the prince.
She's not going to be saved by the prince, and she's not going to be dreaming about true love. She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can be.
I say, if I'm going to stand there 18 hours in a dress of an iconic Disney princess, I deserve to be paid for every hour that it is streamed on.
Once upon a time, a young actress landed her dream role as one of Disney's most iconic princesses. But instead of a happy ending, Rachel Zegler's journey as Snow White transformed into a cautionary tale about Hollywood, politics, and the unforgiving nature of internet culture. The 23-year-old star, who had previously charmed audiences in West Side Story, found herself at the center of a perfect storm, one that would eventually see her name trending for all the wrong reasons. A $115 million box office disaster, and a career suddenly hanging in the balance. It all began innocently enough.
I never wanted to come off as me being ungrateful for the opportunities I have. I can also be having the greatest time and simultaneously wishing people would stop sending me death threats.
Disney, riding high on its live-action remake success, cast the relatively unknown Latina actress as their new Snow White. The studio was taking a progressive approach to the classic tale, and Zegler seemed the perfect choice to usher the 1937 animated feature into modern times. But trouble started brewing long before the first audience ever saw a frame of the film. During early promotional interviews, Zegler made comments that would come back to haunt her and Disney for years to come. The original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so, Zegler remarked in one infamous interview. There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her. Weird. So we didn't do that this time. The internet predictably erupted. Fans of the classic fairy tale felt Zegler was diminishing a beloved childhood memory, while others rushed to defend her modern take. This was just the beginning. As production continued, more controversies surfaced. Reports emerged that Disney Disney was replacing the traditional 7 dwarfs with magical creatures, a decision that drew immediate backlash from both traditionalists and little people in Hollywood who saw it as lost opportunities for actors with dwarfism. Then came Zegler's political statements that further polarized audiences. She tweeted, "Free Palestine," in response to a Disney promotional post, and later made comments about then-President Donald Trump and his supporters following his 2024 re-election that many viewed as inflammatory. For Disney executives, what had begun as a promising project was rapidly developing into a PR nightmare of epic proportions. Behind closed doors, panic was setting in. Sources revealed that Disney had actually hired a social media specialist specifically to manage Zegler's online presence, essentially creating a position to babysit their lead actress's public statements. The film's release date was pushed back multiple times, with insiders claiming the delays were directly related to damage control efforts. One film insider bluntly said that Disney's lead actress is out of control. Meanwhile, the studio attempted to salvage the production by substantially reworking certain elements and carefully orchestrating promotional interviews with strict guidelines for Zegler. The controversies didn't stop there. Reports surfaced about tensions on set between Zegler and co-star Gal Gadot, who played the evil queen. Though neither actress has directly addressed these rumors, industry insiders suggested Zegler's comments had created an uncomfortable dynamic, with Gadot reportedly requiring increased security after facing online harassment tied to the controversy. Text messages allegedly sent by Zegler to production staff were later leaked, showing the young actress expressing frustration with Disney's handling of the situation, and messages she would later claim were taken out of context. Conservative commentator Candace Owens didn't hold back in her assessment of the situation. In a scathing video that quickly went viral, Owens lambasted Zegler, saying, "This woman is extraordinarily woke as everyone is in Hollywood, but she's woke in a way that's quite harmful."
There's something wrong with her. She's disturbed, she's unhappy, and she thinks it's about feminism and the patriarchy and about abortion. But the reality is she's just not stable. Like the majority of people in Hollywood, they're just not stable human beings. Rachel Zegler is extraordinarily woke, but she's woke in a way that's quite deranged.
Owens accused Zegler of trying to rewrite a fairy tale to fit her activist fantasy and suggested that audiences were done being lectured by Out of Touch, entitled Hollywood Elites. The video garnered millions of views within days, further fueling the controversy. The backlash intensified when Jonah Platt, son of Snow White producer Mark Platt, took to social media with his own criticism. In a now-deleted post, he directly blamed Zegler for the film's poor performance, writing that she had dragged her personal politics into the promotional campaign and that her actions clearly hurt the film's box office. This unprecedented move, a producer's son publicly criticizing the lead actress, sent shockwaves through Hollywood. Industry analysts noted that such internal criticism rarely becomes public, suggesting the behind-the-scenes situation was even more chaotic than reported. When Snow White finally premiered, the reviews were mixed at best. Critics pointed to an uneven tone, with the film struggling to balance traditional fairy tale elements with more contemporary themes. Box office numbers told the most damning story. Despite topping charts in its opening weekend, the film fell far short of expectations and ultimately lost an estimated $115 million. Disney executives, who had hoped for another billion-dollar success in the vein of their earlier remakes, were left scrambling to explain the disappointment to shareholders. Film critic Kelechi Ehanulo offered a more sympathetic perspective, suggesting Zegler had become a victim of culture wars, and noting that actors from underrepresented backgrounds often become targets for backlash. This perspective gained traction among some commentators who felt the criticism of Zegler had crossed into unfair territory, particularly given her young age and relative inexperience in handling global spotlight. They pointed out the disproportionate scrutiny faced by women of color in Hollywood, suggesting a double standard in how Zegler's comments were received compared to controversial statements made by established male actors. As the controversy continued to swirl, Zegler attempted damage control. She issued what many perceived as a carefully crafted apology. "I would like to sincerely apologize for the election post I shared on my Instagram last week. I let my emotions get the best of me. Hatred and anger have caused us to move further and further away from peace and understanding, and I am sorry I contributed to the negative discourse." But for many, the apology came too late. The internet had already made up its mind, and memes mocking Zegler and the film circulated widely across social media platforms. The mounting pressure took its toll. Sources close to Zegler revealed she had been devastated by the backlash, with the young actress reportedly seeking therapy to cope with the online harassment. She gradually withdrew from public view, canceling scheduled appearances and drastically reducing her social media activity. Disney similarly distanced itself from the controversy, with executives tight-lipped when questioned about the film in subsequent interviews and financial calls. The controversy's latest chapter unfolded just recently. Despite the ongoing backlash, Zegler received an invitation to the prestigious 2025 Met Gala, a sign that not all doors in high society had closed for her. However, in a move that sparked further speculation, her representatives announced she would not attend, citing rehearsals for Evita in London. Some interpreted this as a strategic retreat from the spotlight, while others viewed it as a genuine scheduling conflict for an actress attempting to move forward with her career despite the controversy. Through it all, the question remains, was Zegler unfairly scapegoated for a film that faced numerous challenges beyond her control? Industry analysts point out that Disney's live-action remakes had already been showing signs of diminishing returns. Others note that Zegler's controversial statements, while perhaps unwise from a marketing perspective, reflected genuine beliefs that shouldn't necessarily define her professional capabilities. The debate continues to rage, with social media users regularly revisiting the controversy whenever Zegler's name appears in headlines. What's clear is that the Snow White controversy has become a case study in the perils of modern celebrity, the intersection of entertainment and politics, and how quickly public opinion can turn in the digital age. For Disney, it represents a costly misstep in their remake strategy. For conservative commentators like Candace Owens, it symbolizes everything they believe is wrong with contemporary Hollywood. And for Zegler herself, it marks a painful chapter in what had been a promising young career, one that she'll need to overcome if she hopes to reclaim her professional trajectory. As Zegler focuses on her upcoming role in Evita and maintains her low profile, the industry watches closely. Will she emerge from this controversy stronger and wiser, or will the shadow of Snow White follow her indefinitely? Only time will tell whether this young actress can rewrite her own story and find the happily ever after that eluded her Disney princess. For now, Rachel Zegler remains at the center of a modern fairy tale gone wrong, which is a cautionary reminder that in today's hyper-connected world, even the most magical roles can quickly transform into curses when art, politics, and social media collide. In the end, Rachel Zegler's Snow White saga became so much more than a failed film. It became a mirror reflecting the tensions of our time between tradition and progress, freedom of expression and brand-safe silence, celebrity and accountability. Was she a bold young actress unfairly caught in a culture war, or a cautionary tale of how personal beliefs can collide with public roles? As she steps back into the spotlight with Evita, one thing is clear: her story is still being written. And whether it's a redemption arc or a lasting shadow, only time will tell if Rachel Zegler can turn this real-life drama into her own kind of comeback fairy tale.